Craig, Doncaster coming up on Sunday afternoon, fourth South Yorkshire derby of the season. But just before we touch on that, I can imagine it was a very enjoyable bus home from Barrow at the weekend.
Yeah, well, mate, definitely. It's never easy going up to Cumbria and coming back with a win. So for us to do that, I think pleasing performance from a coaching point of view. The stuff that we talked about doing last week, the stuff that we focused on in training, the guys really, in the performance, he executed that what we want them to do, and hopefully that's a sign of things to come with the sort of shifting mentality of doing the basics right, being tough and aggressive and resilient, and coming through the other side. And certainly they did that up at Cumbria.
I can imagine, obviously, coming back in tonight, all the coaching staff and players will review the game and obviously look ahead to Sunday now. But just how pleasing for everyone was it to get that win? What feels like it's been coming for a while, hasn't it?
Yeah, well, I say you say it's been coming for a while. I think we've been quite a way off where we needed to be, and there's reasons for that. We know personnel wise we've been struggling, bodies wise and positions wise, and people playing all over the park, and you don't want to use that as an excuse, but ultimately has affected us. And I've mentioned previously, it's not just not just what you see on a Sunday. I guess ultimately everybody just sees what happens on a Sunday, but when you've only got 12 people and 13 people training on the Tuesday, Wednesday and Friday, there's not a great deal of prep that you can do, or not a great deal of effective prep that you can do when you've only got 12 and 13 bodies on the field. So that impacts on what can happen on a Sunday as well. And I think the Challenge Cup final, that 2-week turnaround, came at a real good point of the season for us. We could draw a line under what had happened and look forward rather than looking back. And we've got a few bodies coming back, and hopefully this week we've got a few more people coming back as well to give us a little bit more competition for places. So it's looking a little bit more positive than it was 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks ago.
There were plenty of people playing out of position on Sunday, but like Corey Johnson played in the half, scored twice and stuff like that. And we said on Sunday, the man management, the game management was so important to obviously getting that victory in the end. So I can imagine now that's what you'll be wanting to see more from the lads, won't you, between now and the end of the season?
Definitely, yeah. Corey playing in the half-back position for 60 minutes of the game, then moved back into his natural 9 role at the end of the game when Conor Bauer came in and he dropped into the half-back position as well. So I think the way that himself and Jensen handled and managed the game in that first half, I think we were 100% completion that first half. The only time that we didn't complete the set was when we didn't claim the kickoff after one of our tries, so it weren't really an error that we made as such. So to have that 100% completion rate, and I think more for me, just the what we call percentage ends, so we weren't really chasing an end or looking for something miraculous that weren't there. We're just happy to kick the ball into a corner and chase aggressively and back that with some physical, tough defence, which ultimately forced some errors to put us into a better position. It's getting that message across. It's a change in mentality that we don't need to take shortcuts. Sometimes you've got to play the long game, and it might take 25, 30 minutes for you to get a little bit of joy. And sometimes in rugby league, when you do that, then you might go back to back, and we did that twice in the game. And that's the reward for delivering on the message that we're trying to give the players, is to stay patient and play the percentages really, and sometimes you'll get that reward.
It's going to be another big physical test this week. Doncaster, they're a big side forwards, and having played them already 3 times this season, it's always a tasty game when we play them, obviously with the South Yorkshire derby feel. But as I say, are you expecting a similar game to what we've had, or are you expecting something completely different this week?
No, I think it'll be a similar game. You mentioned there they've got some big forwards, some tough physical forwards. They've got a couple on dual from Hull to strengthen them out as well. And then outside backs as well. The outside back get them going forward. 2 physical wingers and centres that they get them going forward out of yardage pretty well, and 2 half backs that control the game well. And Craig Hall at full back, who's been around a number of years now and has still got that class in attack. So we know that we've got to be as good, if not better, than we were this week, and hopefully the messages that we've been giving the players and what they executed this weekend, they can execute in the weekend to come up as well.
Without trying to look at it as getting back-to-back wins, how do you kind of prepare the lads for this week? Do you just treat it as one game at a time and just try to, as I say, follow what we've done without putting maybe too much pressure on them, if you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's not necessarily looking at the destination is a win. There's obviously a journey to get there, and it's a process to get there. So if we just concentrate on that, we've got to win, you forget about the process that you need to follow to get there. And I thought that's the thing that we did really well up in Barrow. We followed the process on how to build into a game, and once we built into the game, how we could break a team down and then beat the team as well. So we need to do that again this week. We've got to go through the process of being patient, of completing our sets, of defending tough and physical and being desperate at times, which we were on our goal line this week. we got put under a lot of pressure towards the end of that game. Eventually, I think the last 9 sets of the game that we had to defend, but we were still desperate and resilient and wanting to work for each other, and that's what we've got to do ultimately, and that's the process of rugby league. And it might sound a little bit boring at times, but if you do that, then the smart and the attractive stuff can come once you've done that hard work.
You say there about obviously the defensive side of the game and how important it was to obviously getting the win. We know how good the players are, and getting that win, surely the confidence, the more performances we put in like that, surely the confidence is just going to keep getting better, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, definitely. Winning breeds confidence, and winning breeds less injuries as well. You don't feel the knocks as much when you've won a game, and hopefully we can build into this second half of the season on the back of that good performance. But it just doesn't happen, like I said before, it doesn't happen because you want it to happen. It's got to happen because you put the work in, and people like Alex Foster typifies everything that I want in my players, the work ethic that he's got, the attitude that he's got, the little 1%ers that might not necessarily be noticed by people that are watching the game, but his teammates and his coaching staff, fully value and understand and appreciate everything that people like Fozzie does, and that's what team spirit and ethics and the morale built on his people is the work that people like Fozzie does, and I'm just singling Fozzie out there just as an example, but there were a number of examples that I could have picked out from the weekend, and that's what we need. We need 17 people that are pulling the shirt on week in, week out, that are doing them unselfish stuff, the side before self things. You've got to be humble, and some people might play less minutes during the game than ordinarily you'd like to do, but it's the flow of the game that dictates sometimes what happens and the rotations that you make, and there's no point making rotations just for the sake of it. And I thought the game were fairly slow at the weekend, a lot of stoppages, and it meant that our middles could play, our starting middles could play a lot longer than what you'd normally keep them out there. And unfortunately, some of the people on the bench played less minutes, but that happens sometimes in a game. And it's the side before self, and you've got to do what's best for the team rather than what's best for you.
Like Samasi Matongo obviously came back.
Yeah.
He'd been out for a while for injury. I can imagine now you're at a point, you say more players coming back. It must be nearing a point where you're going to be able to fully name a 21-man squad and kind of have that selection headaches, aren't you?
Yeah, I don't want to count my chickens. We've still got 3 sessions to do this week. So, on paper at this moment in time, we can potentially name a full and fit 21-man squad this weekend. But like I said, I don't want to count my chickens too soon before we get through the 3 sessions. But that's what you want as an head coach, and you want the competition for place, you want the contests and the compete in the physicality and training. So, if you've got somebody in your position that's fighting to get in, you're competing against each other, and that ultimately means that on a weekend you've got to play well. And if you're not playing well and you're not training well, then somebody else is going to come in and take your spot, and that's what we need. But for us to do that, we've got to have a fully fit squad, or at least a fully fit 21, which we've not had for a long time this season. I don't even know if we would be able to name a fully fit 21-man squad this season, so it'd be nice to be able to do that, but as I say, I don't want to speak too soon.
You mentioned last week Joel Farrell's nearing a return to action. Are you hoping that he's good touch and go maybe for the weekend, or is it still a bit too soon?
No, we're hoping he's going to be good to go. We've targeted this game. I think had last week's game maybe been a home game and not the long 3-hour journey up there, sat on a bus, he could have potentially maybe played last week as well, but we didn't want to put the travel in his legs and then put him on that game back for his first game back in 8 or 10 weeks, whatever it's been. So he'll probably be in contention for selection this week as long as he comes through training okay. We're hoping that Matty Dawson-Jones will be back available this week after missing last week, potentially Ryan Miller as well. So there might be a couple more people available this week.
Them 3 players there, plenty of leadership qualities, plenty of experience under the belt. Just how great would it to have them back in the side? And as you say, a second half of the season, trying to take game by game, just how much of a boost is having them kind of players back in action? Yeah,
it's great, because like I say, it's not just for the game, it's for training as well. And just because we've got people back available for selection doesn't necessarily mean they're going to play. I thought Jade and Billy played well at the weekend, and obviously Darius on the wing played well. And what you want to do is you want to reward people for playing well, and we'll have to look at what we think is the best selection for this week, as long as we've got everybody fit and available, and we'll come to that decision as a coach and staff what we think is the right 17 to pick. But it is good to have people potentially back available and challenging for selection.
And we've not talked about it yet, but we're finally back at home for what feels like a long time, and a very long time. Being back here in a South Yorkshire derby obviously has an advantage. But how much you're looking forward to being back in front of the home support this weekend?
Yeah, definitely. We've mentioned before that we need to make our own ground count. We're not doing that yet. I know we've not been played particularly great home or away, but I think we've played better away from home than we have at home, and that's something that needs to change. And hopefully it can start this week. We need to make sure that we start putting dominant performances in at home. So hopefully that can start this week, as I say.
And dominant performance, I think one of the previous home victories we've had was against Doncaster. I think we scored 50 points on them earlier in the season. So to do something similar again this week would just be an extra tick for you guys, wouldn't it?
It'd be delightful if we could, but they're a different team to what we played them last time at home. They've got, like themselves, they've got quite a few players back compared to when we last played them at home, and real good performance at the weekend that they put Batley to the sword at Batley as well, which is never easy to do. So they're full of confidence. They'll be looking at coming here and trying to get a victory over us. They got one over us at their place last time, so it's challenges for us now to make sure that we rise to the challenge and perform at home and try and get that victory just to keep the momentum going for us.
And as you say there, they got a really good win at Batley on Sunday. They scored 50 points themselves. We come into this off the back of a really good win. So it's got the expectancy to be a really, really good game for a neutral, hasn't it?
It has, definitely. And as you say, it's at Derby as well, that Derby element. So we went on the back of a win, Doncaster on the back of a very good win. It's a South Yorkshire Derby, so it's got all the elements of being a real, again, tough physical contest and hopefully an exciting one.